In today's reading lesson, we are going to be taking a look at the comprehension pages that are associated with mountains surviving on Mount Everest. So looking at the directions, you are going to create a travel brochure. It says you are writing a travel brochure about climbing Mount Everest. First, gather details for the brochure. Okay, and boys and girls, as you know, a brochure is something that people will create to advertise their particular area or country or site. Like, for example, Disneyland may have a brochure, or Cancun, Mexico may have a brochure to try and get you to go and visit there, okay? So the first one says, read pages 359 and 351. Write important details about Mount Everest and its mountain range. So when we go to page 349, remember, in order to cite evidence, we have to go back to the text. So it says, among the climbers was Temba Shuri, Sherpa. Just 2 weeks before, Temba had celebrated his 16th birthday. Now he was trying to survive in one of the world's most extreme places. Making it to the top of Everest was Temba's dream. He would be the youngest person ever to reach the summit, which is 29,035 feet high. So that is one detail that we can say about Everest. We can say the summit of Everest is 29,035 feet high. So that is a detail. So let's go to the next page and see what we can find. And that was on page 351. It says Mount Everest, the mountain Temba was climbing, is part of the Himalaya Mountains. I like that. Let's add that. It is a part of the Himalayan mountain. And I will check the spelling to make sure it's spelled, that we spelled that one correctly. Himalaya, okay. Himalaya. Okay, the Himalaya Mountains. Let's go back. The name Himalaya means home of snow. We could add that detail, but I'm not sure. Let's keep going. This Asian range is the world's highest. It includes 9 of the 10 tallest mountains on Earth. So I definitely like to add this Asian range is the world's highest. That's very important. This range is a part of the world's highest, or a better way to say it, it is a part of the world's highest ranges. That sounds better. Let's keep going. It includes 9 of the 10 tallest mountains on Earth. We could add that, but I don't believe I want to here. Down below, it says mountains cover 1/4 of Earth's land surface. That's just a general fact about mountains. We want to only write facts about Mount Everest. So boys and girls, you see that I didn't include the name Himalaya, means home of the snow, and it includes 9 of the 10 tallest mountains on Earth. If you choose to include those other facts in your brochure, fantastic. Let's keep going. It says to read page 354. What equipment should travelers bring? Okay, so we'll go back to our story so that we can find text evidence. Now I'm going to use what I know about informational text, about it being separated into headings. And I'm going to read the headings to see if I really need to read this entire page. So the first heading here says Timba's mistake. And my second heading says survival equipment. So because I am looking for equipment that I need to bring, I'm not going to really read about Timba's mistake. I'm only going to read the part referring to the survival equipment. So when I look at the box, it says survival equipment. It says climbing suit to protect against cold, gloves to keep hands warm and dry, goggles to protect eyes from the sun's harmful rays and from reflection off snow, oxygen mask and tank for breathing at high altitudes, an ice axe to help climb slopes and break up ice, climbing ropes to climb up slopes, trekking poles to help a climber stay balanced, and mountain boots with spikes that dig into the snow and ice. So this is what we'll do. We're going to say, using the question to help us restate in our first sentence, we're going to say, travelers should bring the following equipment: climbing suit, gloves, goggles, gloves, goggles, oxygen mask and tanks, ice axe, tanks, ice axe, climbing ropes, trekking poles, and mountain boots. Climbing poles, climbing ropes, trekking poles. So climbing ropes, trekking poles, and ice boots. Okay, so those are the things that a climber will need, the equipment. Okay, and our last one says, read pages 355 and 360. What should travelers know about the climb? What should they be careful not to do? So let's start at 355. So this has two questions that we need to answer. We need to answer what they should know and what they should not do. So let's go to page 355 and read that page first. Camp to camp. Temba's second try began in April 2001. Mount Everest sits between Nepal and Tibet. There are several different routes to the top. Temba would take a route from the north, the Tibetan side. Climbers move from one camp to the next higher one and then rest for a while. At each camp, their bodies get used to the higher altitudes. Temba spent several weeks moving between camps with his team. At Camp 3, the team waited for a break in the weather. Winter was over, but there had been a series of severe storms. Getting caught in a snowstorm further up the mountain would be deadly. And here we see a diagram of the trek up to the summit. And then the informational box says the climb up Everest officially begins at base camp. Climbers stay in tents there so their bodies get used to the lower levels of oxygen. So from this page, boys and girls, we see that one of the main things that a traveler should do is to go from camp to camp and rest there so that their bodies will get used to the higher altitude. So we'll say that travelers should move from one camp to the next so that their bodies will become adjusted to the higher altitude. Okay. And then on page 360, okay, it's taking a little time. Okay, 360. Will the mountain survive? Timber survived in the mountains. Now he wants to make sure the mountains survive. The world's mountains face many different threats. Trash is one problem. For a while, Everest was called the world's highest garbage dump. The mountain was littered with tons of trash that climbers left behind. Batteries, bottles, and empty oxygen tanks. Many climbers didn't have the time or strength to carry these things back down with them. So it says climbers have left garbage on Everest since 1921. Now people are trying to clean up the mess. So for the question that says what travelers should not do, this one is easy. We're going to say travelers should be careful not to leave any trash like oxygen tanks. What were some of the other things that they left behind? Let me go back and see from the story. Batteries, bottles, and empty oxygen tanks. That's right. So we'll include batteries and bottles, like oxygen tanks, batteries, and bottles on the mountain. Okay, and that is what I will say for this question. If you would like to add anything else, feel free. You see the pages that you can get additional information from. On the next page in your journal, you are going, let me refresh this so you can see it clearly. So on the next page in this journal, what they'd like for you to do, let me see if I can make this larger. Okay. It says, now use all the details from the previous page to write a brochure that will tell climbers what to expect on Mount Everest and what to bring for the climb. Include a title and label illustrations on each panel of the brochure to show what that section talks about. So boys and girls, the big squares here is where you'll draw your pictures, and the lines are where you're going to do your writing. So because this is separated into 3 different panels, what you can do is do one panel on your important details about Mount Everest, what equipment travelers should bring, that can be your second panel, and then the third panel should be to tell your travelers what to know about the climb and what should they be careful not to do, okay? So that concludes our lesson for reading comprehension. Go ahead and take your time on this brochure, make it neat, and also make your pictures detailed, okay? So if you're talking about empty oxygen tanks and batteries and bottles, you can draw little pictures. The directions also ask that you label your pictures so the reader will know what it is that you have drawn. Okay, so take care, and this concludes our reading lesson for today.